Now, if you are into pteridology, which is the branch of botany that involves the study of ferns, then I'm at the place for you, because today I am at the Fern Forest Nature Center in Coconut Creek, Florida. This place is really interesting. Now, speaking of ferns, I don't know too much about them, but I like looking at them. So in this video, I'm just gonna walk through the park, along the various boardwalks and other trails and show you what this place is all about. All right, I'm now approaching the structure, which houses the Visitor Center and Nature Center, which has all sorts of displays and exhibits and information. But this place is interesting because there's also a wedding venue here. So if you and your beloved both really love nature, then this offers a unique and special location to get married. This is really cool, how you can sort of take a book out on the trail with you to help you with identification, and then just leave it here when you come back. I do really appreciate this trail information board at the beginning of the trail. Bald cypress trees have lost their leaves for the winter. Red maples are in seed and starting to leaf out. Really cool concept. And here's a board showing 11 of the types of ferns that you'll see out here. Now, I don't know what that's all about. And there is a lizard in the crack of that, whatever it is. That's a unique thing to see at the beginning. Now we're gonna set out on the first boardwalk trail. All right, we'll take a left here at the Cypress Creek Trail. It's a loop, then we'll come back and go to the ground trails, which are on the ground and not on the boardwalks. Here's a pretty cool feature with this limestone rock and this gnarled tree growing on top of it. And then you see the air plants growing all over the tree and all the trees around it. It's pretty cool. All right, let's keep going. Here we have some shoestring ferns. They kind of look like pine needles. And there's some sword ferns down there. Got some more of the resurrection ferns right here. They'll open up when it rains. It has not rained in a while. Air plants, wild coffee. A lot of stuff going on out there. Given that this boardwalk is called the Cypress Creek Boardwalk, it does make sense that we finally do see some cypress trees. We got a behemoth right here, several others over here, and an informational pavilion where you can relax for a bit. The water is really quite low right now. This is the lowest I've seen it, so hopefully we'll get some rain soon. I think this is the giant leather fern. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm no fern expert. But this is a nice representative section. On the base of this palm, you can see some of these whisk ferns, which are a really primitive plant. I don't even think that they're actually ferns, but are called a ally of ferns, or a fern ally. And if we go over to this side, there's a bunch of crinum lilies down there. Not in bloom, obviously. Oh, look. And a lot of, I don't know if you can see it, caterpillars down there, eating away at the crinum lilies. Those caterpillars down there will eventually turn into the Q arches moth. And should you get overheated, there's a misting station next to this giant cypress tree. Let's see if it works. It seems to. It's not necessary today, but it's a good feature to have. All right, I just left the Cypress Creek Boardwalk and I'm going to the ground trails now. It is pretty peaceful out here. Not too many other folks out, despite the fact that it's really pleasant weather and early Saturday afternoon. All right, so crossing this bridge, this takes us to the beginning of the ground trails. So I'll go this way, and it is currently not wet, so maybe there won't be too many mosquitoes. Let's find out. Maple Walk Trail. Definitely pretty muddy. Not too bad. I kind of like environments like this, but it's probably not for everyone. The muddy section is over, and now I find myself on a much more well-trodden and dry path. There's a bunch of benches here, so it could be something like a little relaxation reflection spot. If you should so choose, you can sit and gaze out at the lily pads and ponder, and maybe see a gator or two. Definitely fish out there. I can see a couple, two or three, even though you can't see them on camera. Here's another tinted area with benches. There's mulch on the trail here, and the sort of character of the landscape is starting to change a bit, which is fine by me. I like a place that has different options. There's a power line directly overhead in the sound of the road, but otherwise it's a very pleasant walk out here. Prairie overlook. That sounds good. This does not look like a prairie to me, so I'm excited to see the prairie when we get there. Always pause to appreciate the beauty berry. There were promises of a prairie, but I'm still not seeing it. I'm not complaining because I'm loving this, but I'm looking for that prairie. I had a glance at that field. Now I'm back in the forest. Prairie loop. Let's find that prairie. I imagine that I'm gonna round a corner and I'm gonna be in the middle of Kansas. This might be it. This might be the moment of breakthrough. So I guess this is the prairie, with one proud palm tree standing right there in the middle. Not exactly Kansas, but it again does give the park a different character. Let's go this way. I went off path a little bit so that I could appreciate these prickly pears in bloom with these lovely yellow flowers. It is strange, just a few minutes ago I was in the middle of a wetlands looking at different ferns. I'm now walking down this path. It feels much more like a road than a trail. And just looking at the map, it looks like it's going to take me right up against Lyons Road and the Florida Turnpike. So not exactly the most remote feeling of being in the wilderness whenever I'm right against the highway. Nevertheless, though, worth checking out. All right, looks like I made it to the edge of the park. As you can see, this gate right here is saying go no further. There's Lyons Road and the Florida Turnpike. This area feels much more like a sort of a debris zone where the stuff that pours off a busy roadway will accumulate. So I'll make my way back to the prairie. All right, we are in what appears to be a protected area for gopher tortoises. Someone's trying to start a prickly pear right there. And we got tops of pine trees. It looks pretty cool. Looks like they're a bit scarred by a fire that took place at some point. I'm gonna walk down this little loop trail that goes right by the road and see if I can find a gopher tortoise. I'm really not trying to be cynical, because I'm very happy that this park exists, However, this bench would not be my first choice when it comes to sitting down and having a hopefully peaceful, serene engagement with wildlife, given that the highway is no more than a football field away. Let's see what's back here. Dry riverbed, slightly muddy. Here's a castor bean plant that you'll often find growing in disturbed areas. This plant is toxic and contains ricin, so I would not recommend eating it, though something has. No gopher tortoises today. Oh well. I'm walking through the prairie on my way back to the nature center and then ultimately back to my car. Back at the nature center. Nice little library here. Water fountains. Coke machine. Alright, that concludes my visit to Fern Forest Nature Center here in Coconut Creek, Florida. South Florida has lots of really interesting and special natural parks and wildlife areas, and this place is no exception. You can go from the really dense vegetation on the boardwalks to that more open area with the cactuses growing. Definitely recommend that you check it out if you ever make it down here to Coconut Creek.